Welcome back to the Metabolic Compass podcast, where we recalibrate your biology and rediscover your direction. I'm your host, Brandon Soika. If you've ever felt like your body just isn't keeping up, you're eating clean, you're sleeping more, maybe you even cut caffeine, tried breath work, or added cold plunges, and yet you still wake up tired, you hit a wall at 2 p.m., you can't seem to recover the way you used to. That's not normal. But it is common when your Energize domain starts to drift. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on what's actually happening inside your biology when you feel tired but wired, when your fuel is low but your cravings are high, and when your body stops responding to the things that used to work. We'll look at the real root causes, not just surface symptoms. And we'll talk about how mitochondria, protein stress, and broken feedback loops quietly dismantle your ability to generate energy before you even notice the crash. By the end of this episode, you'll have a new lens to understand your symptoms and a clear next step to begin rebuilding from the inside out. Here's a truth you probably haven't heard before. Most people who feel exhausted aren't actually low on energy. They're experiencing a miscommunication problem in their biology. Let's break that down. We tend to think of energy like fuel in a gas tank. If you're tired, you must be running low, so you need food, coffee, supplements, or rest to fill you back up. But that's not how your biology works. Your body doesn't just burn calories for energy. It reads signals about what's available, what's needed, and whether it's safe to mobilize those reserves. And when those signals get crossed, when your body misinterprets what's happening, you end up with plenty of energy stored, but your cells refuse to use it. You feel flat, foggy, sluggish, like the light switch isn't connecting to the power source. This is the start of an Energize domain breakdown, and it happens long before your labs come back abnormal. It happens when your mitochondria, your cellular engines, stop trusting the feedback they're getting. That mistrust shows up in small ways at first. You wake up after 8 hours of sleep, still feeling tired. You eat, and instead of feeling fueled, you crash. Your workouts leave you depleted instead of energized. You crave energy, you crave sugar or stimulants just to function, and then feel guilty or inflamed afterward. These are not signs of weakness. They're biological misfires. And they're incredibly common in people who are pushing hard, performing well, or recovering from long periods of stress. Let me give you a metaphor we'll use throughout this episode. Imagine your body's energy system like a smart home. Your thermostat senses the temperature, your lights respond to motion, your fridge adjusts its cooling based on how full it is. But what happens if the sensors glitch? What if your thermostat says it's freezing when it's not, or your lights shut off while you're in the home? You don't have a power problem, you have a communication breakdown. The same thing happens inside your biology. Your cells aren't just passively generating energy. They're responding to hormone cues, nutrient signals, and inflammation markers, redox balance, and more. If any of those signals get scrambled, whether from inflammation, circadian disruption, chronic stress, undereating, overtraining, or poor recovery, your mitochondria will shut down energy production as a form of protection. That's what leaves you stuck in fatigue. And this is exactly why some of the most well-intentioned advice falls flat. Just eat more, just sleep more, just fast longer, just exercise, just take a multivitamin. If your signals are broken, none of that works the way it should. In fact, it can backfire because you're adding fuel, but your biology doesn't trust it enough to burn it. That's the key insight of today's episode. Your energy problems aren't about willpower or effort. They're about broken feedback loops that need to be recalibrated, not just boosted. In the next segment, we'll dive deep into the real MVP of your energy system, your mitochondria. And trust me, they're not just little batteries. They're far more powerful and far more misunderstood. Let's talk about mitochondria, the tiny power plants inside your cells that get name dropped in every biology class and fitness blog. You've probably heard the line before, mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell. It's true, but that definition barely scratches the surface, because your mitochondria do so much more than make energy. They're signal integrators, stress sensors, immune regulators, and metabolic decision makers all rolled into one. In fact, they may be the most important organelles you've never fully understood. Here's what your mitochondria are actually doing behind the scenes. Every moment of every day, they're reading inputs from your environment and from your internal biology. They're not just deciding whether to burn fuel. They're evaluating what type of fuel to burn, how much inflammation is present, Whether it's safe to repair tissue or activate survival mode, whether you're stressed or stable, nourished or depleted, they're adjusting how your body uses energy based on safety, nutrient availability, circadian rhythms, and even social connection. So when people say, I have low energy, it's often because these mitochondrial sensors are reading danger and choosing to pull back. When mitochondria are functioning well, they create ATP, the molecule your body uses as energy currency. But in the process of making ATP, they also generate free radicals, tiny sparks that can cause damage if not balanced properly. This is normal. In fact, those free radicals actually signal repair when handled correctly. But when you're under chronic stress, whether it's emotional, inflammatory, or metabolic, those free radicals build up faster than your body can clean them. And your mitochondria go into defensive shutdown. They reduce energy output to prevent more damage. They signal your body to stay in a lower gear, and they shift focus from thriving to surviving. You're not just tired, you're in conservation mode. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Mitochondria aren't static engines. They're dynamic networks that merge, split, and recycle themselves constantly. This process is called mitochondrial fusion, where they join forces to share resources, mitochondrial fission, where they divide to isolate damage, and mitophagy, where damaged mitochondria are cleared out and replaced. When you're healthy, this cycle runs smoothly. Old mitochondria get cleared, new ones are built, and energy stays stable. But when you're inflamed, undernourished, or overstimulated, that cycle breaks down. You stop clearing the bad. You stop building the new. You end up with sluggish, half-functioning mitochondria that are still alive, but not doing their job. That's mitochondrial dysfunction. And it doesn't just affect your muscles or metabolism. It affects your brain, your hormones, your recovery, your immune system, even your mood. Because every system in your body runs on energy. When your mitochondria falter, everything gets harder. You can rebuild this network, but not by boosting energy with more stimulants or stress. You have to recalibrate the signal. You have to support the underlying machinery, clearing what's damaged, building what's needed, and restoring metabolic trust. That's what we'll begin mapping in the next few segments. First, we have to talk about a lesser-known stressor that makes everything worse, even if you're eating well and supplementing smart: protein stress, and how misfolded proteins quietly choke out your energy production. We've talked about mitochondria as the core of your energy system, but there's another layer, one most people have never heard of, that plays a surprisingly huge role in how energized you feel: protein stress. Now, this isn't about how much protein you're eating. It's about how well your body is folding, managing, and clearing proteins inside your cells. Let me explain. Every single second, your cells are building proteins. Proteins to build muscle, proteins to drive enzymes, proteins to signal hormones, regulate immunity, and repair DNA. They're the workforce of your biology. But here's the catch. Proteins only work if they can fold correctly. That folding process is delicate. It requires energy, enzymes, and the right internal environment. When proteins misfold, they become dysfunctional and sometimes toxic. Now imagine this happens at scale. Your body's under oxidative stress, inflammation is present, mitochondria are on the defensive, and suddenly your internal factory starts pumping out misshapen, misbehaving proteins that clog up the entire system. This creates what's called proteotoxic stress, a cellular logjam that slows everything down. Your mitochondria can't work efficiently. Your detox pathways get overwhelmed. Your immune system starts misfiring. And your body spends more energy cleaning up the mess than making new energy. Think of it like this. You're running a factory. You've got assembly lines, quality control, and workers trying to hit deadlines. Now imagine half the products coming off the line are defective. They pile up. They jam the conveyor belts. That's what happens during protein stress. It's a constant energy leak. And the longer it goes unchecked, the more downstream damage it causes. If you're chronically inflamed, under-rested, or eating a diet lacking in micronutrients, antioxidants, or repair signals, your body struggles to properly fold proteins, clear out the damaged ones, and recycle what's useful. This is especially true in mitochondria, where mitochondrial proteins are some of the most sensitive to stress. When these proteins misfold, they interfere with energy production directly. So now you've got mitochondria under threat, misfolding proteins clogging the gears, and inflammation keeping the fire stoked. It's no wonder you feel tired even when you're doing everything right. But here's the powerful reframe. Protein stress is not irreversible. Your body has built-in tools to detect and clean up the mess. Processes like autophagy, or internal recycling program, chaperone proteins, helpers that assist in refolding misfolded proteins, and ubiquitin proteasome systems which tag and break down what can't be saved. These systems work best when the following conditions are met. You're metabolically flexible, not stuck in sugar burning or fat burning mode. Inflammation is low. You're getting quality sleep, and you're eating the nutrients that support protein turnover and mitochondrial renewal. Think of magnesium, B vitamins, selenium, CoQ10. So again, this isn't just about eating more protein. It's about supporting protein processing so that energy production can flow freely again. And this is where things get exciting, because when you support protein repair and mitochondrial cleanup together, your body stops leaking energy. It stops overcorrecting with cravings or cortisol, and it starts regaining the flexibility to adapt. Which brings us to the next signal that gets scrambled when Energize drifts. Fuel sensing. In segment 4, we're going to talk about how your body reads glucose, fat, ketones, and insulin, and why even the cleanest diet can backfire if those sensors are broken. Let's talk about something that confuses a lot of people, especially those who eat clean, exercise regularly, and still feel tired or inflamed. Fuel sensing. You've probably heard of metabolic flexibility. It's your body's ability to shift between burning carbs, fats, and ketones depending on the situation. In an ideal world, your metabolism is like a hybrid engine, able to flip seamlessly between fuel types based on need. But when the Energize domain drifts, that signal gets scrambled. Your body forgets how to switch gears. It either clings to sugar or stubbornly holds on to fat, and no matter what you eat, it doesn't translate into usable energy. Here's how this works. Every cell in your body is equipped with tiny sensors that monitor incoming nutrients. They're constantly scanning how much glucose is available, is there enough insulin, are fatty acids circulating, are ketones present. These sensors are part of what's called nutrient sensing pathways, and they're critical to make energy decisions. Two of the biggest players here are AMP-K, the sensor that tells your body to burn fuel and repair cells, and mTOR, the sensor that tells your body to build and grow. When things are working well, these two alternate back and forth like yin and yang. But when your mitochondria are stressed, protein folding is impaired, or inflammation is high, these sensors stop firing accurately. AMP-K stays suppressed, meaning you can't efficiently burn fat or initiate repair. mTOR stays elevated, driving inflammation, fat storage, and cellular congestion. This is why so many people feel stuck even when they're eating all the right foods. You're not just what you eat. You are what your body can sense and respond to. And when fuel sensing breaks, here's what it looks like in real life. You crash after meals, you wake up groggy even after 8 hours of sleep, you crave sugar or caffeine for quick hits of energy, you don't feel hungry in the morning, but you binge later in the day. You gain fat even on lower calories, and you can't build muscle despite adequate protein. These are signs your body doesn't trust the fuel you're giving it. Not because the food is wrong, but because the signal interpretation is off. What disrupts this signal? Here are the biggest culprits. Chronic inflammation blunts insulin sensitivity and disrupts mitochondrial function. Sleep debt raises cortisol and suppresses AMP-K. Circadian misalignment, eating late or an inconsistent light exposure skews your nutrient response. Micronutrient deficiencies, missing cofactors like magnesium, B vitamins, zinc, and chromium. Too much or too little fasting creates mixed metabolic signals if done without foundational balance. So before jumping into keto, intermittent fasting, or carb cycling, you have to restore the ability to sense and respond to any fuel in the first place. Because when that system is offline, your body isn't adapting, it's surviving. Now here's the hope. Fuel sensing can be recalibrated, and it starts by focusing not just on the food itself, but the timing, the light cues, the micronutrient support, and the safety signal underneath it all. We'll talk more about what to actually do to rebuild this domain in segment 6. But next, in segment 5, we're going to pull all this together into a simple question. How do you know if your Energize domain is drifting? Because understanding the signs is the first step towards reclaiming your energy, not just physically, but metabolically. You don't need a blood test or wearable device to know when your Energize domain is drifting. But your body already tells you. You just need to know how to listen. Let's break down what this drift actually feels like in real life. Most people think a breakdown in Energize domain shows up as tiredness, but it actually starts with something subtler. You're not recovering the way you used to. You're not bouncing back. That 30-minute workout feels like a marathon. The post-lunch slump hits harder than it should. You crash earlier in the day. And when you do get rest, you still wake up foggy. This is a telltale sign of mitochondrial distress. Your cells are producing energy inefficiently and spending more of it just to maintain the basics. So even if you're sleeping, eating well, or moving, you're not restoring. Another major sign of Energize drift is cravings, especially for caffeine, sugar, and salty snacks. These aren't just about willpower. They're your body's way of trying to patch a broken energy loop. Low energy output equals your brain searches for quick fuel. That's why you crave fast carbs or another hit of coffee. And here's the paradox. The more you give in to those cravings, the more they reinforce the drift. Caffeine suppresses sleep pressure. Sugar spikes insulin. And both blunt AMP-K activation, blocking your body's ability to burn fat and renew mitochondria. Here's another red flag. Your body can't switch between fuel sources. You get shaky if you miss a meal. You need a snack to function, or you try fasting or a low-carb plan and crash hard. That's not weakness. That's a signal that your fuel-sensing pathways are offline. Your body doesn't trust that it can shift gears, so it stays dependent on one fuel source, usually glucose. This is the metabolic equivalent of driving a car stuck in first gear. You're burning through fuel inefficiently, overheating your system, and never hitting cruising speed. Ever felt like your fuse is short? That little things feel overwhelming? That's not just emotional, it's energetic. When your mitochondria are underpowered, your nervous system loses its buffer. You become more reactive, your HRV drops, your sleep gets lighter, it becomes harder to adapt to even mild stress. And ironically, that stress, especially if it's chronic, feeds right back into the energy loop, further suppressing mitochondrial function. While symptoms are the most important signal, here are a few blood markers that often correlate with Energize drift. Elevated fasting insulin or glucose, low or borderline low CoQ10, elevated liver enzymes, especially ALT and AST, high triglycerides with normal cholesterol, low magnesium, zinc, or B vitamins, elevated hsCRP, an inflammatory marker. These aren't diagnostic, but they do support the bigger picture. If you're curious how to use labs more strategically, we covered that in episode 15, the only labs that actually matter and how to read them yourself. Bottom line, if you're feeling any combination of post-exertion crashes, sugar or caffeine dependence, poor stress recovery, weight gain despite good habits, and brain fog, irritability, or light sleep, you're likely in an Energize drift. And no amount of motivation or macros will fix it until the cellular energy systems are repaired. In the next segment, we'll talk about how to do that, what works, what doesn't, and what you can start today to begin restoring your fuel systems from the inside out. Because fixing your energy isn't about pushing harder, it's about fixing the foundation. So now that you know what an Energized drift looks and feels like, let's talk about what actually works to repair it. Not hacks, not gimmicks, not one-size-fits-all advice that ignores your biology. We're talking about true metabolic restoration, starting with the system that turns food and oxygen into fuel, your mitochondria. Step 1, restore the rhythm. Before you look at food, supplements, or movement, you need to restore your daily rhythm, because the number one thing that resets mitochondrial function isn't a pill, it's circadian alignment. This means morning light within 30 minutes of wake, consistent sleep and wake times, even on weekends, no caffeine until 60 to 90 minutes after waking, front-loading calories early in the day when mitochondria are more active. This doesn't just optimize your energy, it tells your mitochondria when it's safe to turn on. Because if your circadian signals are inconsistent, your mitochondria stay in low power mode. And that shows up as fatigue, poor fuel sensing, and stalled fat burning. Step 2. Feed the mitochondria. Once the rhythm is restored, you need to feed your mitochondria the raw materials they require. This includes magnesium. Over 300 mitochondrial enzymes depend on it. B vitamins, especially B1, B2, B3, B6, and B12 for electron transport. CoQ10, a critical carrier in the mitochondrial membrane. L-carnitine, shuttles fatty acids into mitochondria for fuel. And acetylcysteine, it's a precursor to glutathione, the master antioxidant. Alpha-lipoic acid, regenerates other antioxidants and supports glucose metabolism. Astaxanthin, a potent mitochondrial antioxidant. Ergothioneine, a cytoprotective nutrient your body can't make but selectively retains. And butyrate supports mitochondrial biogenesis and anti-inflammatory balance. These nutrients aren't just nice to have. They are non-negotiable for energy production. When your mitochondria are deficient in any of them, energy output slows and damage accelerates. Step 3. Shift fuel flexibility gently. A lot of people try to jumpstart their energy with low-carb diets, intense fasts, or fat-burning supplements. But if you're already in an energy deficit, this backfires. Instead, we want to train metabolic flexibility gradually. That starts with 30 grams of protein at breakfast to signal satiety and muscle preservation, fiber and resistant starch to support butyrate production and blood sugar balance, chromium for insulin sensitivity and better glucose handling, and movement after meals, even just a walk to stabilize glucose curves. And for those who don't feel hungry in the morning or need a fast solution, a protein shake with added biomend and fiber is one of the best options. It delivers key signals for mitochondrial support, gut health, and stable energy without burdening digestion. Step 4. Move, but don't deplete. Exercise is crucial for mitochondrial health, but the wrong kind of movement at the wrong time can push you further into drift. Here's how to do it right. Walking after meals. Boost glucose uptake and mitochondrial activity. Resistance training 2 to 3 times per week. Improves AMPK activation and mitochondrial biogenesis. Avoid HIIT or long endurance sessions if you're crashing after. These are signs your mitochondria aren't ready yet. Listen to your recovery. If you feel energized after movement, great. If you feel wiped out, scale back until your system is more resilient. The takeaway. Fixing an energized drift isn't about more willpower. It's about restoring the foundations of cellular energy. Start with light, then feed your mitochondria, support fuel sensing, and move in a way that builds capacity, not depletes it. Because when your mitochondria come back online, everything else in your biology improves. Hormones, weight, brain function, mood, immune resilience. This is where lasting change begins. So let's bring this full circle. If you've been feeling drained physically, mentally, or emotionally, if you're tired but wired, crashing in the afternoons, if you're living off of caffeine and sugar to survive your day, and you're not broken, you're just drifting in the energized domain. And the good news, you don't need to overhaul your entire life. You just need to recalibrate from where you are now. So here's how to start. Take a moment and ask yourself, do you wake up feeling rested or like you've been hit by a truck? Are you relying on caffeine or carbs to get through the day? Do your workouts leave you energized or totally wiped? Do small stressors feel bigger than they should? Are you gaining weight despite eating clean and moving? If this sounds like you, your mitochondria are waving the white flag. Your fuel signals are scrambled and your recovery systems are maxed out. This is the signature of an energized drift. So what should you do next? Start simple. Start specific. Begin with morning light exposure, no phones, just 5 to 10 minutes outside. 30 grams of protein at breakfast, or a protein shake with fiber and biomend. Movement after meals, not a workout, just a walk. Delaying caffeine until 60 to 90 minutes after waking. Rebuilding your supplement stack with the key mitochondrial nutrients we covered today. These may sound basic, but when done consistently, They restore rhythm, rebuild your fuel systems, and recharge your biology from the inside out. If this episode hit home, I want you to take the Drift Quiz. It's a free tool we created to help you identify exactly where your biology is drifting and how to start correcting it based on your symptoms, not just your goals. Go to themetaboliccompass.com/quiz and get your personalized drift score. At the end of the quiz, we'll walk you through a 2-week reset that targets your domain drift, whether that's nurture, energize, strengthen, or withdraw. It's the fastest way to apply what you're learning here in real life. In episode 23, we're heading into the strengthen domain, the realm of repair, resilience, and biological defense. We'll talk about why your body starts aging decades before you feel old, what really causes telomere shortening and stem cell exhaustion, and how to know when your body is stuck in maintenance mode instead of repair. If you've been feeling more fragile, if you're noticing slower healing, more injuries, or more immune issues, that episode will give you the map to get stronger again. Until then, recalibrate your energy. And remember, fatigue is not your fault. It's just feedback, and you have the tools to shift it. You've been listening to the Metabolic Compass podcast, where we bridge cutting-edge science with real-life application to help you reclaim your health one directional shift at a time. To learn more, visit us at www.themetaboliccompass.com or follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Metabolic Compass. And if you haven't already, leave a review. It helps others find their way back to alignment too. Recalibrate your biology, rediscover your direction.